I went to L.A. I went to work with Ricky Nelson when I was 16. I wrote Suzy Q when I was 14, played on the Louisiana Hayride. I did my first movie when I was 16 called Carnival Rock. And then I was working with a guy named Bob Lumen, and I met Ricky in Hollywood. And we were out there doing shows. And I went to work with him and ended up recording with everybody in Los Angeles. And I was on a TV show called Shindig. When I left Ricky, Johnny Cash called me to do a TV show, and which I did. I went and played Slide Dobro with Johnny, and that was a pretty interesting show. It was called Shindig, and the producer, Jack Good, was a big fan, and he said, look, man, I want you to be on the show every week. So I put a band together, and we were the Shin Dogs, and we did all the music, most of the music for the whole show, every week. And we got some interference here. Let's rush it. Anyway, but yeah, most of my stuff was in, well, I mean, I go all over, but when I started out was in, all that stuff was in California. I mean, then I ended up going to all the other studios. I would go from LA to Nashville to record with Hank Jr. and all those guys, you know. And I got a great story. And I was in Nashville with John Denver. You know, by the way, when Elvis passed away, I went to work with John Denver. I worked with him 20 years after Elvis died. And pretty interesting story. I was in Nashville with John, and I had a day off. So I decided to go around the studio and say hello to my friends. So they got in the studio, and Jim Ed Norman, great producer on Warner Brothers. Jim said, hey man, you got your guitar? And I said, well, yeah, at the hotel. He said, what I'm recording Jane Freaky, and I'm recording Mickey Gilley, Charlie Rich. He had like 4 or 5 artists he was recording. So I said, well, you know, I could probably do it later tonight, or he said, well, would you come in tomorrow and record? And I said, okay. So anyway, I brought my guitar in the studio the next day, and Mickey Gilley, and we were cutting with Mickey, and when I played with Janie and Mickey Gilley and Hank Jr. and Charlie Rich, all those guys. But it was amazing because Mickey Gilley, we cut a song called Stand By Me. Remember that song? Anyway, Stand By Me. And it was a cool record, man. And a couple days later, I go back to L.A. But the song was cut for the movie, Urban Cowboy. And it was a good movie anyway. Johnny Lee, a guy named Johnny Lee, had Looking for Love, big record, Looking for Love. So when I get back to L.A., which is like within a week, I get a call from Jim Ed Norman. He said, man, I'm doing this record on Johnny Lee. Would you come in and play on it? And I said, yeah. So I go in the studio, and Johnny Lee, and the album I ended up playing on was called Looking for Love. But Johnny Lee was when I was in Nashville recording Stand By Me with Mickey Gilley, he was in L.A. recording Looking for Love for the same movie, Urban Cowboy. So when I get back to L.A., I end up playing on his album, Looking for Love, but the only song I didn't play on was Looking for Love. I played on all the other songs. But the guitar players that played on that was Larry Carlson and Dean Parks. And not bad players. As a matter of fact, I was in the studio recording, doing an album with Jack Jones. And it was me, Hal Blaine, and Joe Osborne playing bass. And we had a different keyboard player. And I asked Rick Gerard, I said, who's the guy playing keyboard? He said, that's Michael McDonald. So Michael was playing piano. And this other guitar player came in. I said, who is this guy? He said, that's Larry Carlson. So the first session that Larry played on, I was on that session with him. And Larry told us after the session, he said, man, I was so nervous playing with you guys. But it was his first recording session. He's a great player, and he played a great solo on one song. But I thought it was so cool, man, being on the first session with Larry, because he's such a good friend of mine. And great player. There's so many great players out there. And we probably got some in here. All you guys. But anyway, I got a lot of great stories. But I'm working on my book, so I'm dying to finish my book so I can read it. And I want to read it myself. But anyway, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you guys coming out. And I didn't really have a program put together for you guys, but sometimes it's the best way, just, you know, off the top of your head, and what happens next. But the good Lord has truly blessed me and my music and my family, all the support from my family and everyone, and being able to meet all you nice folks, you know, and going all over the world. You know what's so great is being able to travel, to see all these places you normally wouldn't get to go, you know. And you go, you play your instrument, you do what you love best in life, play your instrument and get paid for it. You know, so, and you get to go a lot of places. And I was recently in Barcelona, Spain. We went and did a 2-week cruise, and with the Elvis TCB band, and it was great. But I had to fly, and the guy called me and said, Steve, the producer of the Elvis show, called me and said, can you meet us in Miami on the 2nd? I said, well, I won't be home until the 2nd. I won't get home until that night. He said, oh man. He said, you gotta work it out. You gotta come into Miami that night, and so we all have to go in together into Brazil with the visa and everything, because they have really strict rules. And so I had to fly from Barcelona, Spain, going through Frankfurt, Germany, into Houston, Texas, and I had to go to a different airline in Houston to fly to Miami, and then a couple hours later get on a plane to Brazil, which was another 8.5-hour flight. Boy, I didn't know what country I was in when I got there. I had no idea. I've been in so many, you know, and so many time zones, you know, jet lags. I don't even know if I went to bed for a couple of days. But anyway, it's all part of the travel and everything.
You're going to travel tonight too, or no? Isn't it true? You're going back home?